Everybody, it's John with the On Deck Circle. Today is December 31st, 2019, and I thought that we would cover a little bit about the MLB's permanently banned list. And I thought it was a little interesting, some names that were on there as I did some research, so I wanted to cover it a little bit with you today. Hope everybody has a safe night as this is the 31st, getting ready to go into 2020. For those who are fans of MLB history, I would share something with you that I covered on my YouTube channel today, and that is 47 years ago today, Roberto Clemente was killed in a plane crash on a humanitarian effort back to his home country to take some food and some relief effort stuff. So Roberto was part of the 3,000 hit club, enshrined in Hall of Fame, great player. And again, he passed away when his plane went down December 31st, almost 47 years ago. So I wanted to kind of cover that with you guys. With the ML banned list, it was very interesting. I wanted to go through it with you guys and hopefully you can think about it and listen to it while you drive or just relaxing right now. Before 1920, players were banned by a decision of a committee. There were 14 banned from 1865 to 1920. Of those, 12 were banned from the association with gambling or attempting to fix games. Probably the most notorious was the 1919 Black Sox. One was banned for violating the reserve clause, and one was banned for making derogatory comments. Interesting. So in 1920, team owners established the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball. To keep the players in line and out of corruption way. But Kennesaw Mountain Landis was the federal judge, was the owner's ideal candidate for the job and given the unlimited power of the game. He banned many players and various others, often very small offenses at the times. In his 24 years as commissioner, Landis banned more people than all the other people combined of the commissioners. It was kind of interesting. In 1991, though, the Baseball Hall of Fame Museum voted to bar banned players from induction. In 2005, though, the result of the findings of what they call the Mitchell Report, MLB stipulated that multiple violations of the new Major League Baseball drug policy would also result in a lifetime ban policy, which we've seen obviously with Clemens, Sosa, Bonds, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro. So it's interesting that the punishment is pretty stiff. Now with the MLB, the Hall of Fame holds the ability to whether to induct somebody or not based off the sports writers. So this has no bearing on the decision of a commissioner whether the person gets into the Hall of Fame or not. It just bans them whether they can be active in the game, active in the front office, coach, minor league, farm system, anything to do with the game itself, but it doesn't have any stipulation or control over the Hall of Fame. It's interesting that some of the most notorious people on this list would be the 1919 Black Sox. And then we're going to get into a few people, which you guys, after I did some research, I didn't think were in here, but they are. Landis banned a total of 19 people during his time as the commissioner. Like I said, more than any of his successors. Of the 19, 2 were reinstated by Landis. 1 was reinstated by his successor. 16 remained banned. As the condition of accepting the commissioner's post, Landis demanded and got nearly unlimited power and sanction over the transgressions he believed were a threat or image to the integrity of the game, which if anybody knows anything about history, Landis himself was struggled and challenged with his own integrity, yet he was giving his ruling on others. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Some of the most notorious ones that had met this list were the 8 players from the Chicago White Sox. They were banned in 1920 when they threw the game in 1919. They, in collusion with some gamblers, threw the game, And the individuals that were part of that ban list were Eddie Seacott, Lefty Williams, Chick Gandil, Fred McMullen, Swede Risberg, which was the shortstop, Hap Felch, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and Buck Weaver, the third baseman. The only ones who were not banned that were part of that game were the second baseman, Eddie Seacott. No, I'm sorry, not Eddie Seacott. Eddie Collins. And then the catcher, Ray Schock, were the two. And both those two, Schock and Collins, went into the Hall of Fame. So those are the only two that were not caught up into that band or were tried in court. They were found not guilty. It's kind of interesting that the two that were, let me back up. There was another one that was really interesting was Fergie Jenkins of the Texas Rangers was banned in 1980s after a customs search in Toronto, Canada, found 3 grams of cocaine on him. Jenkins missed the rest of the 1980 season, but was reinstated after some arbitration and retired the following 1983 season. He was elected into the Hall of Fame in 1991. That was very interesting. And then the two that I found the most interesting was, if you guys are ready for this, Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle. Both retired and both in no way involved with baseball anymore, were banned in 1980 and 83 respectively, after they were hired by some casinos in Atlantic City, New Jersey as greeters and autograph signers. Buick Kuhn said that there's no place, a casino is no place for a baseball hero or Hall of Famer. The bans took place prior to the Hall of Fame formalizing its policy against inducting banned persons, and the Hall took no action as a result of Kuhn's decision. Mantle and Mays were reinstated by Uberoth in 1985, and Mantle died in 1995. So that was, I thought those two are very interesting. And of course, the most notorious one I think we all know about, besides the Black Sox, was Pete Rose. Pete Rose was banned by Giamatti, and Giamatti eventually had died of a heart attack. And Fay Vincent never, as the person coming in, excuse me, never brought Rose in, and that's that's an ongoing thing. It's still sitting in the state that it is right now. So I thought that was interesting that Mays and Mantle both were on this permanent ban list until they were reinstated. And part of me got to thinking, with the 1919 Black Sox, should any of them, specifically Shoeless Joe, which I will be doing a show next week on Shoeless Joe and his history and why I believe that he's probably the greatest of all time. And I'll have that argument later. But so I think that, sometimes I know we get these players get caught up and they do some things off the field. And but I still think, in my opinion, that some of these players should be lifted and led into the Hall of Fame, specifically Shoeless Joe and Pete Rose, both for what they did on the field. If you look at it, a lot of these players do things off the field that would probably get them banned too. Up to this date, there's not a single player I think out there that, I know there's some great players that are model players, but some of these players did what they had to do, especially the 1919 Black Sox, did what they had to do because they were working under a horrible owner, which was Comiskey, and they did what they had to do to make a living. So I don't know if I'd necessarily hold that against them with some of their stats they have, specifically Joe, to get him into the Hall of Fame, and Pete to get into the Hall of Fame. I think they're both deservedly for what they did need to get in. But so after a little bit of research, I thought that was really interesting. So I wanted to share it with today's podcast as we start to go into 2020. I think some of the shows I'm going to be looking at some hobby pickups on a budget like we had discussed, and looking into the history of baseball or hockey or football, basketball, looking at the history of things so we can learn a little bit more and then go forward. It just makes it a little bit better when you go out searching for some cards that you're looking for, some history. And again, history is always a great thing, specifically in some of these sports, and I enjoy it. And I got a vintage card curator, somebody I watch and listen to a lot, and I learn a lot from that. So I think I will do that going into 2020. Please let me know what you guys think. For all those new listeners that I've picked up, I greatly appreciate it. We got some people from other countries that have listened in. And so I greatly appreciate that. And I hope you continue to download, listen. If you have any comments, you can certainly get back to me on some shows that you want to hear. And my goal is to just bring some good insight into the hobby, into history while you guys do some traveling or driving or on your way to work, in the car, or just relaxing. You can listen and think about something. So again, I appreciate the subscribers and the people who've downloaded to listen to the show. So as we go into 2020, I hope everybody has a great 2020. And as we look back, 2019 is a couple hours away from us. So with that being said, look forward to next week. We will be talking about my opinion of the greatest of all time in baseball, which is probably going to be Shoeless Joe. So I hope everybody has a good day, a good night, safe night. And I look forward to hearing everybody and getting some podcast out in 2020. All right, everybody, have a good night.